Hi, I'm Anne Butera, and this is Sips of Inspiration. Today I have Misty Olsen with me for our chat, and I'm so excited. I've been collaborating with Misty on her new online event, Start Your Art, which is coming out next week, and I'm so excited to have her here. So Misty, welcome, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, Anne. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks.
Well, a little bit about me is I am an artist and I'm working towards writing and illustrating children's books. And I have recently, like everyone else, have felt the pressure for COVID-19. And I started to think that what I would like to do for the community is create a community to where we can connect with one another, working towards our artistic goals together. And because we're all on the same path and we're going in we're going in the same direction, just in different ways. And I just wanted to be able to help and encourage artists to reach their goals and to find the teachers and the resources that we all need in order for us to reach our goals. And so I started Start Your Art, so that way we can be motivated to come and create and connect with our teachers and find friends to take classes with, so we can find that accountability group to follow through and finish the classes when we get discouraged. And that's been kind of just a journey for me to being able to do that. So that's a little bit more about me.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I think it's so important that we all encourage and support one another, especially now, because there's so many messages of division out there. And I think as artists, we have a chance to bring people together and to create a community that's supportive and welcoming, and it's so important.
I think the same thing. And that was like my main, when I thought about all of the things that we were going through, and what I could do to make, just that one spot better. And that was for me connecting and creating community, because that's how at least in the way that, with my understanding, that's the only way to bridge the gaps that we have, is actually making friendships and communities that connect us together.
That's wonderful. So I always ask my guests, where do you find inspiration, and what do you do when you're feeling stuck and when inspiration isn't flowing? How do you get it flowing again? I'd love to hear your take on that.
It comes from a lot of different places. So a lot of times, like I will play with color. I love color, and I like finding ways that I can just start with doing that. But a lot of inspiration usually comes from my walks or different mediums that, like, I'm just working with watercolor, but like learning how to use my masking fluid, and can I use it in large chunks, and just trying to find like looking at my art as a science project kind of keeps me inspired to continue to go. And it really kind of helps with my creative blocks. Like for me, because I'm learning and developing the skills that I want, like practicing my brush strokes and taking my colors that, like, just one color, and seeing how many different shapes that I can actually pull from my paintbrushes. Looking at my pencil leads and seeing how soft the leads are, how I can go from, like, working with the values, how light can I get my leads to go, to how dark I can get my leads to go. And I even use that even in my watercolors, so seeing how light I can get my pigments of my watercolor, and then how saturated I can get that color. So I find that I really like working on the technical side of things, because it helps free up thinking I have to create a masterpiece or a beautiful sketchbook spread. It kind of removes the outcome from it and really develop those skills. And with doing so, I've been able to see so much progress in, like, my wet on wet and layering techniques, and just having more confidence in my brush strokes, because I know what shape they do because I've used it so much. So that's how I keep my inspiration going.
That's wonderful. I wish I had done some of those things when I was first learning how to make art, because it's so helpful. And I think that it's such a joyful thing. When you mentioned how taking your watercolors from the lightest to the darkest, it's really magical, and how different that really light version of the color is from the very dark version. I know when I've taught classes in person, I have the students do that, and they're kind of amazed. They're like, wow, I didn't have any idea.
Yeah, that would like one of the funnest activities that I have and that I do in my sketchbook is I love working like with monochromatic when I do have a creative block, and I use that color with a little bit of gray, and then I just see what possibilities are. And like some of like there's a few yellows, like if you mix your gray, you actually get greens.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been so fun for me because not only have I been able to create a flower, but I'm able to add leaves and just do all sorts of things with that. But if I hadn't focused on the very basics and building those fundamentals, I don't think I would have had that discovery for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I love doing that.
That's wonderful. So could you talk a little bit about what your biggest creative challenge is and how you have worked to overcome that?
One of the biggest creative challenges that I've had is actually being comfortable just starting out as an artist because I wanted the end result. I didn't want to have to put in the work and the time and the devotion to my creative practice and learning and developing my skills. I just wanted to have the finished result. And I kind of put it to my marathon training is that I just wanted to run the marathon, but not do all the training before
Mhm.
and expect to be able to run a marathon in one day. That just doesn't happen. And like what I started to do is I started to look at these pieces that weren't where I wanted them to be as my finished product, but actually celebrating that, hey, I spent creative time today. I practiced my colors. I worked on my brush skills. I worked on washes, and I was able to mimic some of the botanicals that I've been collecting, and I got to play with pattern and design, and it's coming together, and then that led to having like inspiration coming from myself because when I come up with a challenge, I kind of solve my own ants, I solve my own problems and come up with the solutions to the challenges that I've been having. And I've just gotten so familiar with it. And that has been like the biggest change for me is just letting go of what I want my work to be now and actually enjoying the time that I get to spend because how blessed am I that I get to spend 20 minutes a day just painting and sketching and being able to go outside and observe what's around me. I just, just really coming from that place. And, but the really awesome thing to that is that now I have a body of work and I can see where I started and see how far I've come. And I mean, I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I've seen the journey and I'm just like, wow, this is amazing.
Right. The progress, being able to keep all of those early works, I think is so important because then you get to see your progress. And I also find with mine, I look back at them and I think, hey, maybe it isn't what I wanted it to look like, but that's not bad for someone who had no idea what they were doing. And so I think those two things, being able to see your progress and just celebrating the fact that you're doing it, is wonderful. Because if you didn't put in all that work, then you wouldn't create or achieve anything at all.
You really wouldn't. And I think that that is the most encouraging thing. Once we get past that and we're celebrating, like you said, is like being able to see that progress. And that's like, that is the most fulfilling reward that I can even explain to anyone. It's just amazing.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And then finally, my last question always is, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given, or what's the biggest lesson that you've learned along your journey?
It actually came from an old coach of mine. She was a mindset coach. And I was so discouraged and I wasn't showing up. And she was just like, forget about that. Go copy your, like, who you want to go be. Go look at their work and go copy it. Nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to do anything with it. Just go practice and go do it. And eventually you'll get out of your way. And that's what I did. Is like, at first I went and studied like my children's illustrators that I love so much, and I'm just like, wow, I can almost, like, I can make some shapes and forms, and I can like, it doesn't look like theirs, but it was close enough that made me happy. And then I was just like, wow, actually maybe I can do this. She's right. And then what I did is, like, instead of like trying to see if I could like make a wonky character like the people I admire so much, I was able to actually start working on my own and being able to like really just like create, well, they don't look like how I want them to, but start actually creating these characters that I have I have imagined for all these years. And it was just so fun, knowing that no, I didn't have talent, and like, I didn't have the skills, but eventually with time I would be. And but if she didn't, like, it was just so off of what I was taught. Like, you don't copy anyone's work. You have to just do it from your own creative self. But when you're trying to learn, for me, it was just so much easier to see, like, give myself that confidence that I can actually do it eventually over time.
Yeah, that's great. And I know I did not go to art school, but often some of the projects that people do in art school is copying the masters. And if you go to any museum, probably anywhere in the world, you're going to see some art students there who are copying the paintings that are hanging on the walls there. So it's definitely a valid and very effective way to learn.
Yeah, like, because I did not go to art school either, and I did not even pick up a pencil until I was in my 30s. And so I just did not know that, like, artists back in the days would have apprenticeships, and they did practice the masters, and they did learn from the masters, and I never knew.
Mhm.
I just know that when, for my college experience, plagiarism was not, yeah, that is just not acceptable. So I just, that was, it for me. But when she gave me that permission to do it, but, not share it or claim it,
Right.
just something to practice with, it really just, it did it for me. And that was like, I'm so thankful for that.
Oh, that's great. It sounds like it was a really important epiphany for you to have on this journey of yours.
It really was.
Oh, well, thank you so much for taking your time to chat with us today. I know you've been so busy putting together the Start Your Art event, and I'm so excited to get it, to have it start next week. Down below, I have links, so if you want to join us, you can. How many different artists are you having for this event?
We have 30 different artists, and we go over digital art, watercolor, acrylics. We play with, oh gosh, there's, like, you name it, it's in there. At least for the events, I kind of created it what I thought that all of us need in the beginning. So I have some mindset things, and then I have some really fun creative challenges, and then we work on building skills. And I'm hoping that it helps each of us just take one more extra step towards our artistic dreams.
That's wonderful. Well, thanks again, and we'll be seeing you next week and Start Your Art.